Greetings, Marvel fans. I am Burton with glorious purpose. And that purpose is recapping the penultimate episode of Loki, episode 5, Journey into Mystery. Obviously, it's a reference to the comic book line that Thor and Loki were introduced in back in the 60s. So, in this episode we see Loki and 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 Loki. So basically we're seeing all the Lokis. Well, not all the Lokis, but we're seeing a bunch of Lokis. Turns out that pruning, or rather, the whole disintegration thing doesn't really kill you. It just sends you to a place called the Void, right at the edge of the universe. Is there any connections to the Void from Doctor Who? I doubt it, but it's still a nice, interesting fact. But yeah, I love the idea that resetting the timeline doesn't necessarily just erase it from existence, it just sends them to a place where they can be completely harmless. Just like what Sylvie did to keep herself hidden from the TVA all this time. She went to apocalyptic events where nothing she could have done would have affected the timeline in any way, shape, or form. That's basically what the TVA is doing with the Loki variants, which is kind of makes me wonder how come they never thought about looking for Sylvie there, of all places, or rather in any of these other apocalyptic events. Why is Loki the only one smart enough to figure out that that's where she would be hiding? A little bit of a plot hole on my end, but it is what it is. So yeah, in the Void we see a bunch of Lokis. We see a bunch of Lokis, some of which are ripped directly from the comics. We see the original classic Loki from the comics, looking like he did in the comics, played by Richard E. Grant of all people. So that was great to see. Speaking of Doctor Who, he also played a version of the 9th Doctor in the Scream of the Shalka. He played a version of the 10th Doctor in the Curse of Fatal Death, and he also played the person who would become the body / vessel of the Supreme Intelligence in the Matt Smith era. So it was great seeing him again. He was also in Logan. He was also recently in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, he's a very prominent actor, and it's great to see him in the MCU. Hopefully we get to see his character come back in some way, shape, or form, because I really like the actor. But we see that version of Loki. We see Kid Loki, which is another variant from the comics, from a different universe. We see Alligator Loki, which is another version of Loki from, I believe it was when he turned Thor into a frog named Throg, which we do end up seeing in the episode itself, which is great. We're seeing President Loki, another different variant of Loki. We're seeing a bunch of different Lokis, which is, again, it's what I love so much about the possibilities of the multiverse and parallel alternate timelines. We get to see so many different versions of the same character. It's great. I love it. I don't understand why people hate the idea of a multiverse. I think it mostly comes from misunderstanding what a multiverse is or what a multiverse could represent. But yeah, we're seeing so many great Loki goodness, and this is just in this show. We're going to get something. We're going to get something more with the Multiverse of Madness and the upcoming Doctor Strange movie. So we're hopefully we get to see so many different versions of our favorite characters that our minds will be blown. But yeah, obviously the Lokis betray each other and turn on each other, because that's what Lokis do. Except our main Loki, the one we've been following, the one from the 2012 timeline, the one that escaped using the Tesseract, and also the one apparently the main group of Lokis, other than the big hulking Thor Loki. So yeah, classic Loki, Kid Loki, Alligator Loki, main Loki, and Sylvie are so far the only Lokis that haven't betrayed each other in this version of the story. And I'm curious to see obviously we get a different story for each of these Lokis. Each one tells a different story. I'm curious to see more about the Kid Loki and how he became like the king of his own domain. And I would be interested to see if they were going for season 2 of the show. I would have liked to see the origin story of this sort of Loki civil war between President Loki and Kid Loki. How that whole thing came up. Maybe it'll be a great way to reintroduce Richard E. Grant. But yeah, overall, I really liked a lot of the MCU and Marvel Easter eggs that they peppered all over the episode. I mean, they put not only Throg, but they put the Thanos copter in this episode, which I thought was great. It was a great Easter egg. There was a spaceship that kind of looked, at first glance, it looked to me like Enterprise. It also looked a little bit like a Dalek spaceship. So yeah, I'm curious as to where exactly that spaceship came from. But we see a version of the helicarrier. We see the Dark Aster from Guardians of the Galaxy, Ronan's ship, obviously. So yeah, and then we're being introduced to the main villain of sort of this episode, the Alioth, which I have been told is a villain from the comics, a villain of King the Conqueror, and of course you can't have a time travel story in the Marvel canon without at least bringing up King the Conqueror, which a lot of people are suggesting is behind the TVA. He's the guy in the big castle we see at the end of the episode right after Loki and Sylvie beat Alioth. I'm curious as to if we're going to see Kang show up in this show, because I believe he's scheduled to appear in the upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which with a name like Quantumania, you can sort of guess it maybe has something else to do with time travel. Maybe bringing in King the Conqueror that way, maybe bringing in the Fantastic Four that way, because the Fantastic Four are directly tied to King the Conqueror. Who the hell knows? But yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. I loved the touching moments between Loki and himself. The other variants of Loki, I loved the emotional moments between Loki and Sylvie. Again, another Loki talking to himself. But yeah, Loki is on a journey of self-discovery all throughout this show, from realizing how small he is compared to the grand scheme of the TVA, figuring out that there are other Loki variants, getting emotional with Sylvie in the last episode, and even in this episode getting to know himself better, different versions of himself, getting to know his powers and his limits, because every different Loki has like their own shtick that they stick to. Obviously, with this Loki, it's sort of a jack of all trades, a little bit of both. Kid Loki, I'm assuming, is better with blades and knives. Classic Loki is good with conjuring constructs and illusions, as he used to trick Thanos. Sylvie is really good with enchanting other people. So yeah, this Loki is a bit of everything, and we get to see how powerful classic Loki can be with conjuring an entire fake Asgard just to distract the Alioth, which shows us how powerful a Loki can be once they really set their minds to it. And that's exactly what this Loki does. He said it himself in previous episodes. He's not very good with enchanting people. He's good at conjuring. He's good at blades. He's a little bit good at fighting. But yeah, this time he really gets to know to try out his conjuring muscles, if you will, and sort of use him and Sylvie to enchant the Alioth, tricking him into opening the doorway into the final boss, which obviously will be revealed in the next episode. So yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about. I think I mentioned all I really needed to talk about. The variant Loki is my favorite part of the show so far, and getting to know all these different versions of Loki. Still, again, same character, different versions of it, and I love that. I love the possibilities that we can achieve. Obviously, the finale of this show, the next episode, is going to have much larger implications on the wider MCU as a whole. Probably that's why the multiverse of madness is about to happen with Doctor Strange. But yeah, I can't wait for that, and I can't wait to see where the direction of the MCU is going next. I have said recently that I'm not a big fan of how the post-credit scene of Black Widow ended up being. Not a big fan of how it's influencing the story as far as television goes. I'll go more into detail on that a few weeks from now, so it's less potential for spoiled things for people. But yeah, that's really all I can say about Loki for now. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next episode, which will be our last episode of Loki that we know of so far. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, and don't be burdened with glorious purpose. One of these days I'm going to figure out how to properly end these recap videos. Goodbye. Hello again, everybody! I really hope you enjoyed this video, because I really enjoyed making it. So, if you like what you've seen here, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more awesome content like this. So, until next time, guys, I'll see you guys next time.